Okay, welcome back. We're doing the bowl demo, and now we're ready to trim the bowl to remove the excess clay from the bottom to form the foot. Now, in the interim, this bowl has been drying, and it's been drying upside down so that the foot part can get really strong, or get stiff. But I want to show you about how much flex you're going to see. This is about the cheddar cheese stage of leatherhard. So let me just kind of flex this a little bit. You can see a little bit of flex. It's pretty stiff, pretty firm, but there's a teeny bit of flex. That's an ideal time to trim. So next what I want to do is show you the process. We're going to be trimming this on the wheel, which means we have to center the bowl on the wheel. And we also have to attach the bowl to the wheel so it won't go flying when we're applying the tool to it. Before we do though, let me show you what ultimately it's going to look like. I've got two cross sections here so you can see that the foot is elevating the bowl. Here you can see a cross section. So ultimately this thick bowl is going to have a smaller foot. I should also mention that in your guidebook it talks about the bowl having three separate places where you can enter into aesthetic dialogue. The rim, the body, and the foot. And this cross section we were experimenting a bit with how you can cut the foot after it's leather hard. So there's some carving here, a cutout here. So make sure you review the guidebook for suggestions on how to experiment with the form to make it really unique. One other thing I need to mention too is there is a time when the bowl is too dry to trim. This is one that got away from the artist, and now at this point it's bone dry. It's not worth your time to try to trim this bowl. It will dull the tools you're using, and it will create dust. It's a big headache. Better just to put this into the slate barrel, thank it for its brief but short life, and go ahead and throw some new bowls and then monitor them better so they don't get that dry. Okay, next step, let me show you how to center a bowl on the wheel. So if I put this leatherhard bowl on the wheel and I spin my wheel, you can see this is wobbly. So I'm going to show you a couple of ways to get this into the center for trimming. The first is a pretty simple technique. If you can zoom in here. I'm going to take a dirty sponge. I'm going to press on the wheel head here to form a concentric circle. See that? And that tells me, okay, it's wide over here, so I can use this a little bit like a bullseye to try to center the piece, or close to center to see. That's actually pretty close. The other way, so sometimes you can use that technique to get it real close to center, and then use the touch method for the fine tuning. So let's say I've got it's off center again. See it oscillating. What I do is I put my forearms on my lap, touch my thumbs together, and I bring my thumbs up to the foot of the pot, and you'll notice it's touching as it rotates. I'm doing about 1 second revolutions. 1, 2, 3, about like that. So when it touches my thumb, of course, it's the closest to me. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and then stop, and then nudge the bowl towards the center. 1, 2, 3, stop. Went a little past, and then nudge it a little bit to the center, then check it again. So you just keep doing this, about 1 second revolution. 1, 2, 3, stop. Migrates. Keep nudging it a little more each time. The wheel has a little drift. And then gradually you get there. It's frustrating when you first try this, so sometimes you'll knock it completely off center. That's pretty close. Almost there. Almost at it. So, I now have it centered. You can see it's not oscillating. The general rule of thumb is to center it towards the foot. Occasionally you'll find the rim has a completely different center, and it'll be doing this, and the top will be doing nothing. So generally center towards the foot, because that's where we're going to be removing material. Let me show you the third way to center. This takes a little practice, but once you master this technique, then it goes really quickly for bowls. So I'm going to knock it off center. I call this is called the tapping method. Here's how it works. I'm going to take my right hand and put it over here, and this is going to act as a guard just in case I tap too hard. I'm rotating this about 1 second revolutions again. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to take my left hand, I'm going to rest it on the side of the pot, and all I do is like this. I'm going to start to tap it like this. See, it's right here at the wrist. It's all in the wrist. Okay, I'm not out here like this, but I got my arms locked down, and I'm going to tap into the center. So this hand here is a guard to make sure I don't go too far. And then the closer it gets to center, the lighter I begin to tap. So 1 second revolutions, watch. Tap. Lighter, lighter. Centered. Want to see it again? Slow motion. Oh, no. Here we go. Tap, tap, tap. Closer it gets to center, lighten up, centered. Works great with bowls. Okay, so there's 3 separate ways to do centering. Now, once you have it centered, you want to make sure it stays centered. So you're going to get a chunk of clay, break off about walnut-sized pieces. I've got 4 pieces here. Put your palm on top of the bowl so it doesn't shift. I'll take one of those pieces, press it down against the wheel head. Can you see this okay? Press down against the wheel head. Secure it to the wheel head before you attach it to the pot. So what you don't want to do is smash that ball of clay right onto the bowl. So I stick it down to the wheel head and gradually nudge it up until it touches. All it has to do is touch. Flip the hands over, press the other chunk of clay down to the wheel head, and then nudge it up until it touches. And then we'll do the same thing on the other 2 sides. Press down against the wheel head, nudge. Press down against the wheel head, then nudge. And now it's secure. Okay, so let's take a look at the tools you're going to use. You've got 2 tools that came in your kit. One we call this the large loop tool, and this is the small loop tool. We're going to start with the large loop tool, and I'm going to show you the correct hand position for trimming. This is sort of like a backwards letter K. I'm going to take my left hand and make this shape here. I'm going to put 3 fingers in the middle of the pot. My thumb is on my wrist, and my index finger is actually touching the tool or touching the hand with the tool. So it looks like this. So I've got a little triangle formed here where my hand meets the tool, but I've also got the bigger triangle between elbows and where it's touching the pot. See, that really makes a firm grip. The next thing I want to do is decide how wide the foot's going to be. I'm going to cut in a little bit of a line here to show me about where I want to make the outside of the foot. Now here's the general rule of thumb for the foot. There will be some variation. If I take the measurement from the middle to the outside of the bowl, a good place to think about where the foot should go is right at 1/3 of the distance from the center. So center 1/3, outside 2/3. So we've got 2/3 on the outside, about 1/3 where the foot's going to go. That's a good place to start. So the first thing I need to do is remove excess material to bring it up to that line I just drew. You could do this with a needle tool if you want. Now here's something that's really important about trimming, and that is being really conscious about the ribbon that's peeling away from the piece as you do the trimming. I'm going to use the round part of this big tool in the beginning because I want a ribbon coming off about 1/4 of an inch wide. Anything bigger than that is really just too much contact, and it's going to want to chatter and cause the tool to vibrate and create little ridges. So we're going to take a small bite with the round part of the tool. So here's the correct speed. It's pretty quick. Don't go slow. If you go slow, that tool's going to follow every little bump, and you're going to get a scalloped looking foot. So it's just like turning wood. The wood lathe goes really quick, so the sharp tool cuts clean. This is not too fast. Middle fingers, 3 fingers here in the middle, these fingers making contact, then look at the ribbon coming off here. What's that, about 1/4 of an inch? I'm going to work my tool gradually, slightly up and down, This is really fun. This is the fun part. And work my way up to that ring I made, that mark I made. I can also flip the tool sideways and begin suggesting where the foot's going to emerge from the bowl. And even take off a little bit off the side here. Again, but look at that ribbon. It's not much more than 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so I've established where the foot's going to go, but I still need to excavate the inside of the foot. So take another quick look at the cross section. Here's where we're going. Thick here, so we want to excavate the inside of the foot to bring it down to match the curve on the inside. So now I'm going to move to the small loop tool. I'm going to hold this pretty much like a pencil, and I'm going to, since I can't put my fingers in the center anymore, I'm going to keep that support with the letter K hand grip, and my pinky will rest against the side of the foot right here that I just got through trimming. I'm going to use a tool to draw a line to tell me how wide the foot's going to be, and that'll be my guideline. So here's how it works for the excavation. I'm going to take a disc out of the center with the square part of the loop tool. It's about the size of a dime. Looks like this. Press down a little bit. There, see the shadow? A little dime-sized shadow. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let the tool move to the outer ring here, and you'll see the ribbon coming off is only about 1/8 of an inch. So each time you trim down, start with that technique. Make a dime in the middle, and then gradually move the tool to the outside. If your ribbon gets as wide as the square part of this tool, you're moving way too fast. So keep your ribbon small, like 1/8 of an inch. Here it goes, watch. See that? See the ribbon coming off? 1/8 of an inch. Stop when you get to that mark you made, and then keep cutting. Here's another one, another ribbon coming off. Now ultimately we want the foot, the inside of the foot to be the same thickness as the wall. But we don't have X-ray vision, so how do you know if you're getting close? Well, the technique is something I call the press test. And the way it works is I'm going to put 2 fingers on the outside of the foot ring. I'll take my index finger and just try to press here in the center with a little light pressure. And I've got Dan here. He's going to help me out. He's going to tell me when he feels that inside starting to give. It's a little like a drum head. We're going to keep trimming down, and once that inside of the foot is thin enough, it'll feel a little like the flexing of a drum head. So Dan, why don't you stick your hand over here and see if you feel that moving yet. Pretty firm?
Pretty firm.
Good.
Yeah.
And you can even see it looks raised, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So let's take a few more passes to trim this down and see if it starts to flex. Here we go again. Dime in the center. Take a ribbon off. Now as I take each of these passes with a dime, I'm remembering that the inside of the bowl is curved, so I'm going to let the tool press a little harder on the outside as I approach the foot so that it has the same curve as the inside of the bowl. Let's take another one off and then we'll check it again. Here's the dime, looking for the thin ribbon, press a little harder on the outside. All right, check that. Is it moving yet? I'm guessing it.
Yeah.
Just a teeny bit?
Just a bit.
Just
yeah.
a bit. Now this clay is a little on the soft side, so I'm going to trim a little bit deeper until you really feel the flex. Here we go. One more. Check that.
Oh yeah.
You can even see it moving now, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
So you can see it. It actually flexes like a drum head. You can actually press it and see it. So this is where you want to stop. At this stage, the floor of the bowl is about 1/4 of an inch thick. Now, I still need to trim the outside, right? Because if I show you my little diagram here, here's where we are. We've trimmed down the inside here to excavate, but there's still thickness that we need to get rid of on the outside. This is part of the support clay that we needed when we made the bowl originally. So we're going to trim off that support clay. The idea is that once we've trimmed it equally, it should look as if that ring could just be lifted off the bolt and all we'd see is a continuous curve. Right now we see a step. So we're going to trim down on the outside here. And you can use the small loop tool for this, or if you like to go back to the big tool, you can do that. And you can flip the big tool, the big loop tool, to the small end of the tool to do some trimming. I'm going to trim down. So just experiment with how you have to hold the tool. You may need to hold it low like this to make your ribbon small. You may need to practice the grip. Once you feel like you're getting close, it's okay to use the wide part of the tool. Up to now we've been using the curved part of the tool to keep the ribbon small. But once you feel like you're getting close, and you can tell you're close by just leaning over and looking and see, could I lift this ring off? Would this be a continuous curve? At that point, use the flat part and refine the curve. Good time to lean over and take a look. Does it look round? We can also, if you're really curious, you can actually do a press test on the side to see if it flexes a little bit, but you may need to push the dent out of it ultimately. You want to check that down, see if you feel it nudging in yet?
I'd say a little bit.
A little bit?
I think it might just be soft. Oh, no. Yeah, it's kind of soft up in there. It's a little bit.
So you think maybe I could take a little more off there? Just a little bit. Okay, so I'll take just a little more off there on the outside. It is a little gooey.
Yeah.
I'm also going to take the small loop tool and trim the foot a little more narrow. It doesn't need to be real thick, because that'll just add extra weight. But it's also a good place to add some interest. So you may decide, well, what do you want to do? Is it going to be a straight foot? Will it angle inward? Will it be curved? So you can do some tune-up here. I'll do a little tune-up on the inside. I also like to put little bevels on the corners there and polish those a little bit so it doesn't scratch the table that it's sitting on. Let's do just a simple foot with a little slight flare. Trimming will often raise grit in the clay, so you may see some little holes or little gritty texture here. You can close that up with a metal rib by holding the rib low, and essentially what you're doing is you're kind of polishing or burnishing it closed. Alright, so let's check it and see. Let's pull the pads of clay off. A little bit there. I think I went a little too far. So what do you think?
Fairly nice, yeah.
So you can look at that in profile and see you've got a hemisphere shape, and the foot is small enough so it's not overpowering the piece. I'm going to cut this open so you can see the cross section. Here, I'll use this. But I'm afraid I may have made this a little on the thin side. Yeah, just a tiny bit. Just a little bit on the thin side. Right here at the foot. I should have stopped. I should have stopped when you told me to, actually. Because that was, so I went a little bit too far. So Dan had it correct there. I should have stopped a little sooner. So this is a little thin, and then the rest of the bowl is approaching 1/4 inch. Thanks, Dan. All right, welcome back. We're going to trim the bowl that you've thrown. Start over. All right, welcome back to the bowl demo. We're going to trim the bowl next.